wanted to talk about restorative props. I know a lot of us have really embraced Zoom classes, have really embraced recorded content for our home practice. And even if you really prefer studio classes, a lot of studios aren't going to be opening for a while. On top of that, when we do go back, it's going to look pretty different. A lot of the props that we use in restorative classes are soft things that aren't easily washed, that aren't easy to sanitize, especially between back-to-back classes. So you might want to consider investing in your own set of props if you have the ability. You can kind of control what it's coming in contact with, makes it a bit safer for you, and also it's really helpful for home practice. Now I know restorative props, yoga props in general, can be pretty pricey. So we're also going to talk about some things we can use at home in place of those props, and kind of like the benefits and cons. So first we're going to talk about blocks. Blocks are by far one of the most restorative props in yoga. You can use them for vinyasa, hatha, hot yoga, you can use them for restorative. And pretty much any situation where you need to extend the arms or bring it around closer to you, you can go to a prop or to a block. I like Cork Blocks. I feel like they support my weight better, whether I'm using them in downward dog, using them behind my back in a supported bridge pose, or just sitting on them. They have a lot more support than most high density foam blocks, but they're a little bit softer than wooden blocks. They tend to run about $20 and up per block, which again, I don't know why they sell one block. I don't know anyone who only uses one yoga block, but here we are. But for me, if I was going to invest money in any prop, this would probably be it. Yeah, just because it's so versatile and so helpful across the board. The second thing is a strap. So straps, you can easily use a scarf, a tie, a belt, anything that you can kind of use to loop around and extend the arms. This is especially helpful in restorative poses for things like hand to big toe, reclined hand to big toe. If you really are getting into restorative yoga, you might want to consider getting a conventional yoga strap, one of the ones that has like two metal pieces so you can kind of make really large loops and kind of lock it in place, or one that has a buckle. Why? Because when we do poses like legs up the wall, it can be useful to kind of secure the legs together, actually more like up here, so that we don't have to worry about holding the legs together in poses like that. Supported bridge is another one. There's various amounts. It's also helpful if you're kind of trying to work on alignment in poses, making sure the hands are staying a certain distance apart throughout the pose. But it's not a necessity really, because you can kind of tie a loose knot in a scarf as long as you're really careful. You don't want to cut off the circulation, right? Next, we have bolsters. So a conventional bolster, about 24 to 27 inches long, usually about 6 or 7 inches high, either in a rectangle or a cylinder shape. It usually has either a kind of like medium density foam, kind of like a couch cushion, or compacted cotton batting inside. The cotton batting is going to give you a bit more support, going to be a bit firmer, take a little bit longer to wear down, and it's also going to be a bit more expensive. These run anywhere from around $50 up to, I think the most expensive one I've really seen is $130, $150. And I really prefer Bolsters, personally. And I think that's just because I like the support that they give, the fact that it's consistent all the way through. I like that they're a little bit more narrow than like a bed pillow, because I feel like it just really supports the spine, especially in like our reclined supported poses like bound eagle, fish. And it's super helpful in conjunction with blocks for kind of making our ramps that we use in a lot of our supported poses, like this. It makes it a lot faster, a lot easier to get into the pose. You have a nice wide base for the spine, but you also have the ability to kind of hang the arms off the side to really open the chest, which is harder to get with kind of like bed pillows. Bed pillows, I mean, they work really well as an alternative when you're at home, or if this isn't really an accessible price point for you, which I get, which is why I only have one. But these, they're a little squishy. Even when they're super firm, they tend to kind of give more. You don't get the same type of chest opening action generally because they're wider. And then when you go to use them in these types of ramp situations, I usually have to kind of like squish one into my block, and then they'll like knock over the blocks. I mean, it's a little frustrating, but it's still completely workable, not a huge deal. So again, if you're kind of like building up a practice and you're thinking, hey, I think I want to invest, I would invest in a bolster. But if it's not something that's super important to you, don't worry about it. A couple of firm pillows and you're good. And then the last thing are blankets. So at a yoga studio, you usually end up with kind of like the traditional Mexican style blanket. And I think those are mostly used because when they're folded, they create a nice firm base. And they're also fairly consistent in size. So when they tell you you need this type of fold, everybody can fold it that way, and they know that everybody's got the same thing. At home, we can just kind of use what we have. I do recommend blankets that when you fold them, really create a nice firm shape. You don't want anything where when you fold it, you're really gonna sink a lot, like a comforter. That probably won't be super helpful. But any kind of like thin blanket that basically works to cushion, but still provides support is gonna be fine. I use this in a fleece blanket that my son actually fell asleep with, and I wasn't about to take it. And that works fine for me. So yeah, other things that might be helpful, an eye pillow. It does really help with the weight over the eyes to kind of help bring us down into a more restive, restorative state. But at home, you can also use just a washcloth or hand towel, folded and just kind of pinched around the brow, the bridge of the nose, over the eyes to kind of just add a little bit of weight to it and help us sink down into that state. And if you're a fidgeter like me, I have these two little bags that are filled with, I believe, Flax Seeds. These are from Love My Mat that I use in my hands sometimes because it helps me kind of find stillness. That's a real challenge for me in restorative practices. I can also kind of bring these over the chest as a little weight to help me ground, over the hips. These also work really well to kneel on, especially in a pose like supported child if I'm having a bad knee day. So something like this can be helpful, and this is something you can actually really easily make at home. You can fill it with any type of grain. If you can just sew a square, you're good to go. And the same with an eye pillow, really. So yeah, I think that kind of covers most of your basic restorative props. If you are super into restorative and you're just going to devote your life to it, Then I'd say pick up 2 or 3 bolsters, pick up 4 or 5 blocks, get yourself, some maybe 4 or 5 Mexican style blankets, and you should be set. Oh, and a strap or 2, actually maybe 2, and you're set for pretty much any restorative pose we can throw at you. Yeah. So I hope that helps. And if you have any questions, let me know. Even if you're just looking for maybe help with a pose with the props you have around the house, I'm more than happy to work through it with you. So I hope you have a great day, and